When I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Doni and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
Put my hat up.
I'm South Carolina, so I just.
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Morris?
Oh, my heart.
Happy 20th anniversary.
My heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? John.
And dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself.
The doctor lived next door to the janitor, to the reverend, and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Doni, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all the more.
Letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. All right, today is Wednesday, May 15th, and it's about to go down. First up, Byron Deese. Next up, Andy Pierre, political extraordinaire, and Richard Deshay Elliott. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good, good. Well, Richard, since you've come the farthest distance, let's just check in with you. It seems like you're just full of coffee and overjoyed with effervescent ecstasy thanks to the results of the 2024 primary election in Maryland.
Yes, good morning. I woke up literally 3 minutes ago. All right, so some of the news. Angela Brooks has broken history in the great state of Maryland. We have a black woman not only as the nominee, not only as the handily nominated nominee, but somebody who's coming through the primary with the full force of the Maryland State Democratic Party apparatus. We have seen in the past that with Ben Jealous, with Donna Edwards, with several other candidates that had quite a bit of name recognition, strength, and fundraising, they might not have had the support system. And virtually every Maryland Democrat has said already, we are going full force. We are not allowing another Anthony Brown situation. In the last polls prior to the primary, both Alsobrooks and Trone were beating Hogan. Now, I think that there's going to have to be examination.
According to what poll?
I had to look up who the poll was by. Give me one moment.
And we'll keep going.
So right now I say that Alsobrooks is well poised to take that seat in the general election, which will help Democrats maintain at least 51 seats in the Senate. Like I said in the last call. Oh, it's echoing. I would much rather I'd much rather Alsobrooks be the tie-breaking vote than Kamala. I'd much rather Alsobrooks be the tie-breaking vote than Larry Hogan, significantly.
Because you fear that Hogan would side more with Trump Republicans.
There's that aspect. There's also that I feel 100% that Hogan will be a better or keep doing slips. I feel that Alsobrooks will be a much.
Maybe that's what you really feel deep down inside. Maybe that's your inner Republican coming out.
No, I feel that Alsobrooks will be a much better advocate for public schools, particularly in black areas. I think she'll be a much better advocate for the environment, particularly in Prince George's. I also think that she is going to have the mentorship of Steny Hoyer, of Kwesi Mfume, individuals you might have issues with their issues they've raised, but who undoubtedly have a large amount of information they can give for a woman who will be entering the Senate as a freshman and will definitely need the support of the congressional delegation in order to be successful.
Andy Pierre, you buying that? Oh, damn. I think that
definitely has merit. It definitely has merit. And I like also Brooks, but Hogan's going to give her a run for her money, man. Hogan's going to establishment and all. She has the full, all the support of all of the establishment, all of the Democrats and everybody. But it's going to come down to the numbers. And there's a lot of Democrats who like Hogan.
Byron, this is where I get confused. Because also Brooks won, does that mean that her politics have been good?
Yeah, no, not at all. She hasn't been a good candidate, but I think that voters, you have to also add the fact that Trump, even though he spent $45 million on this campaign,
70.
Was it 70? So, listen,
some say 75, but I was going conservative.
Breaking this out. It's worth breaking this out. And he threw a lot of money at this campaign, but he was not a good candidate either. And so I think there's
good advisors.
No good advisors, and he doesn't really understand the Democratic base in the state. I think when you spend too much time in Montgomery County, you think that you can win a statewide election, and that's just not how it works. You need to really fully understand the base. But with that being said, I think when you look at now, we got Hogan and also Brooks. Hogan is a much better candidate, if you will. But I think Black folks have to really get away from the personality of this and recognize that this is about the Senate and the role of the Senate plays in the whole of Congress. And that has to be articulated.
Has the Democratic Party, Andy, you think, been supportive of Black people? Because that's what it's boiling down to. Maryland's 30% Black. Has the Democratic Party been responsive to the needs of Black people in the state of Maryland?
Yes and no. The Black Caucus busts ass. They put the issues up. They go hard, but then you still have to get the rest of the delegations on board. So when you ask the question overall, like broadly speaking, does the Democratic Party take care of the needs of Black people, address the needs of Black people? It's hard to say wholeheartedly yes, because we fall by the wayside so many damn times on so many issues. But I don't know if the Republican Party is the answer. We can't, now. But to answer your question, not really.
I think that they've gotten significantly better, and you could in fact credit that to Hogan. When we have a Democratic governor, Democratic legislators frequently operate to give that governor the legislation they want. To give note to Wes Moore, over the course of his 2 years, they have basically so far made an agenda where he has been able to do his accomplishments. When Hogan was the governor, Democrats wanted to prove that they were progressive, they were supportive of voting rights, they were more supportive of public schooling, and you could easily argue this was an act while Hogan was governor. I'm not going to argue with you if you say that's the case. But since the Hogan nomination in 2014, Maryland Democrats have gotten significantly better on Black issues. That said, supporting Black individual candidates is not the same thing as addressing the needs of the Black community. The Maryland Democrats have gotten much better at supporting Black candidates, whereas they've gotten a little bit better at representing Black issues.
Well said.
Yeah, and I'll jump in there just to say that I think it's important when we talk about Black politics and government and the impact it makes on the well-being of Black people as a whole, because politics and government is really 1/3 of the overall pie that is important to actually make a real difference in the lives of people. But definitely, we're talking Black people. Political government is one piece, economics and community. And when you look at what has the legislators done or what has that mayor or governor done, you have to trace the policies back to what are they doing directly. And then at the same time, was it something that attracted economics, business, capital to those same communities? And what was the actual socio factor when those three things happen? So did the people get involved? Did they get jobs? Did they, did crime go down? So you have to look at a third, kind of the whole pie. But to your point, definitely Democrats feel like they're on attack, if you will, when there's a Republican governor or a Republican president, right? And so they have to create more progressive policies, which in turn are usually focused on helping to lift and address the issues of Black folks.
In 1973, the Maryland General Assembly put forth legislation to bring in the Maryland State Lottery. The number one promise was money for education. Since then, over $15 billion has come out of the Maryland State Lottery. Baltimore City and Prince George's County public school systems are at the race for the bottom, 23 and 24. We have schools in Baltimore City without air, without heat. Question: how has the lottery benefited Black people since 1973?
I think it's fair to say it hasn't, but the lottery is also a gambling thing with rigged odds that you are virtually guaranteed to lose. You're more likely to die on the way to or from buying a lottery ticket than you are to win. I don't play lotto, Donnie, and I don't encourage those who care about their money to either.
But the Democrats did bring in table gambling under Martin O'Malley, which only added to the pot of money supposedly put aside for education. But consequently, here in Baltimore City, again, we have schools without air, without heat. How are we benefiting from this lottery?
I'll just say real quick, the lottery is anything like that that's a government sponsored initiative, if you will, is really to create more on the economic side. So they're trying to attract more people to come play the lottery, and they're going to tout all these various things that it will do and it may do just to get it passed. But that was an economic investment, not something that was really supposed, even though they said it. Even though they said it, that was an economic play, not something that was
so
really
that's a
meant
lie.
to fund education.
So that's a lie.
Wait, hold on. For two notes. For one, Byron, there's also that they legalize certain aspects of gambling to remove them from the Black, both lowercase b and uppercase b, Black economy. Secondly, Donnie, I think the biggest issue, the one that I have,
because prior to that, Little Willie was running the numbers up here in Baltimore, and he was financing Black businesses.
Yep. So there was from a lot of the literature I've read, the main impetus of legalizing gambling and betting and such was to remove it from the mafia and from the Black economy. Secondly, I think the biggest problem we've had with education was when there was the ballot initiative set like a decade plus ago regarding education for the casinos, and the casinos moved money from other places. They did not add education money. And now the casinos are arguing for a reduced tax hold when they are making money hand over fist, and we're becoming sort of a Black Las Vegas on the East Coast.
I mean, ever since the casino money in the I'm pretty sure lottery money generally, it comes in, it goes out. Then there was the lockbox legislation to try to make sure that the money actually made it to the schools. They did some fudgery where the state was moving money around, like he was saying. The schools got the same amount of money that they got anyway, with or without the lottery, right? But I've always thought to myself, it goes down a little, it's a little deeper than that because you get the schools have X amount of dollars per child, which means that the principal of the school ends up managing $1 million, $1 million budgets. And that's where I'm wondering where the oversight's coming in, right? Like from what is Santalici doing to manage her accounting aspect of the school, right? Because the principals, they're here managing the teachers. The teachers are managing the students, managing the education, the curriculum, and whatnot. Who's managing the pocketbook? And are they trained to do it? Do they know what they're doing? How much of that is going out the back door? Because the thing is, you can say, "Oh, there's the money. There's billions of dollars going somewhere. Where is it going?"
Byron, has Angela also Brooks been an advocate for education in Prince George's County, to your understanding?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard, the greatest things about Angela also Brooks as it relates to kind of the lineage of Prince George's County executives. So we're really trying to. This vote for her was more symbolic than anything else. It was more of a situation of, one, we want to, you look at who she is. There's some opportunity to bring in an African-American woman to serve as a senator, but there's still a lot of the fleshing out on the details as it relates to, one, her background, but two, what she hopes to provide as a senator, as a U.S. senator. And so, she would she wasn't a home run candidate, but she's won. And now the objective for the Democratic Party is to make sure that she gets elected against someone, a two-term governor who's had Democratic support over the years. And the question is, does he still have that support? And I think at the same time, as it relates to Black Marylanders and particularly Black Baltimore, is what has Larry Hogan done for Black people, specifically in terms of the issues and the needs, and what has that relationship been like during his tenure? And that record will be hopefully marketed strong.
I'd like to see questions posed to both of them regarding their track record with Black business. How is her record with Black business, Andy Pierre? Have you heard anything?
Well, Black businesses love them some Hogan. Secretary Reed was a good guy. He was opening doors left and right.
Because they had to earn the Black vote. And a lot of times when we're already Democrat, I don't have to earn your vote. You assume that I'm just going to stand right there with you on the basic meat and potato issues. Let's shift gears a bit there, Andy Pierre. I understand that Johnny Olszewski will be going against Kim Klacik. Will we be able to get any of those advertising dollars on this network?
I mean, it's worth the ask. I'll make the inquiry on your behalf. But that's going to be an interesting fight. Kim's got a team of out-of-state folk running her campaign. Johnny O's got the home team, and so this is going to be a battle to see, can the RNC money come from out-of-state strategies flip CD2.
Johnny Olszewski won the county executive race by 17 votes. And as we know, Baltimore County seemingly is getting increasingly Republican in certain areas. Any thoughts on that, Byron Deese? Will the Republicans, will the GOP make a move in Baltimore County?
And to your point, Andy, they nationally, they love Kim Klacik. You got a sister who walks around Penn North talking trash about Black folks in Baltimore. I mean, they love that. They eat it up. It's just the best thing ever. I had a conversation with the white brother from Baltimore County, and he's like, oh, that Kim Klacik. I guess he assumed I loved her too. You gotta love her, right? I was like, she's an absolute joke. He's like, what? What do you mean? She's a joke. I was like, please do not fall for Kim Klacik and her red dress and red heels and saying whatever she can say. But with that being said, I think that this will give an opportunity for the greater Central Maryland area to see Johnny O and actually be in a position to, outside of Baltimore County, really stretching his arms out and showing what type of a candidate he is. I think he's going to do a well enough job to beat Kim Klacik. I don't think she's a serious candidate. She says a lot of stuff. She says all the sound bites.
What's Johnny Olszewski's track record on black business, on public education? Andy, go ahead.
Go back to Kim Klacik. See, the thing about Kim is that what people fail to understand is that what she represents within the Republican Party is something that's very much missing. It's what the black Republicans that we have are your Candace Owens. And you will never catch fucking Kim, excuse my language, you'll never catch Kim saying that we're on a Democratic plantation. You'll never catch Kim saying some just outright demeaning things about black people. Is she harsh on some black people? Is she harsh on Brandon Scott? Yes. She's gonna come at them hard, right? Just because they're elected, this, that, and the other. But she's not coming at the people, looking down at the people, because she understands that within the Republican Party, what's missing is a solid black demographic. There is not a black faction within the Republican Party that makes it so that whenever when one party's in office, the Democrats can just ignore us when they're in office, right? When the Republicans come in office, they just kowtow, try to give us a little something here, keep us satiated and set us to the side. We don't have enough representation on both sides of the aisle for our issues to always be in the top 5. We just don't. And that's Richard, what Kim represents, at least for me and a lot of other black people.
Richard, I know you have to go, but I want to get this in. Are we, as African Americans, making a mistake by putting all of our eggs in the Democratic basket?
I absolutely think that there's other avenues in certain cases, like especially I'm in Prince George's. In many of our elections, they are nonpartisan, and they've often elected, I think, more progressive, more representative individuals because a lot of young people are registered independents. A lot of people who have been spurned by electoral politics have re-registered over their lives as independents. And in most of Maryland, that makes you basically unable to vote, we can practically say. If you are an independent in most of Maryland, you are wasting half of your value as a voter, if not 2/3 your value as a voter. So I'm not going to say that you necessarily have to be a Democrat. I'm also not going to necessarily say that not having some appeal within Republican circles is the worst outcome. Larry Hogan, on certain government transparency, on certain government accountability measures, I'm not going to say was a good governor, but did things that I like regarding education in Prince George's, occasionally showing where the money was going. Regarding his appointments, it's insane to say that Larry Hogan appointed Senators Jill Carter and Senator Charles Sidner to the Senate when they were votes that I think in both cases were tiebreakers, and he could have chosen the more conservative individual. So while I am not giving hosannas to Hogan, there have certainly been things during the Hogan administration, either spurned by Democrats or by Hogan's good political instincts, that were good for Black Marylanders. And I think it is wrong and politically silly to claim that Hogan is the same as Trump. I'm not ever going to try and make the argument because Marylanders see that as duplicitous and false. So I'm not going to try and make it.
Has Wes Moore demonstrated where he is different than a Hogan?
Yeah, let me make a comparison for Alsa Brooks and for Wes Moore. When Wes Moore was running for governor, he could have been the most progressive or one of the most conservative Democrats elected in the country. It was incredibly unclear. Angela Alsobrooks right now has done effectively the same thing. If you were to gauge who Alsobrooks is right now, she's a tough on crime, Palestine support, or at least ceasefire supporting woman that is supported by the entire Democratic establishment. That is so unique of a profile for all of American history. It is insane. And now she gets to fully flesh out her opinions based on really what do the Maryland general election want. In my opinion, that's somebody that will stand up for public education, somebody that will stand up for the environment, and somebody that will stand up for abortion in this election.
Andy, you're laughing.
Because he knows I'm right.
No, he's right. He's right.
He's definitely right. And I'm going to tell you, you touched on something that's very real, particularly to Black voters. Black voters, and you can go state by state, the Democratic Party knows that a huge faction of Black voters would much rather be listed as an independent versus actually touting and walking around as a strong Democrat. But when it's time to, I went through this, 15 years ago. I signed up. I changed my registration to independent. I said, I'm a blue dog Democrat. None of those around right anymore. It's not the 1990s. So I realized, well, when I vote, who can I vote for? Because the primaries wouldn't really allow you to affect change. So I said, I gotta support. I gotta, swing Democrat. But that's not how I really wanted to vote. And there are a lot of Black folks who feel the same way. And so this is something that happens state by state. And so it's one thing to look at it as, yes, Black folks as a base is really the strong, especially when you talk about Black women, are really the base of the Democratic Party. But if we had our choice to affect change realistically, state by state, a huge faction would be would vote as independents.
Fox 45 lost about $500,000. Some say 300,000. And then David Trone lost about 75 million. Any thoughts on the big money? Sheila Dixon, any thoughts on the mayor's race, on David Trone and trying to buy? I mean, there's been this word out that if he can't beat you, he'll just buy your whole team. And that was dismissed. Then he said the word jigaboo, and it was said that he didn't say it just once. That wasn't his first gaffe.
Well, as far as the money's concerned, I was like, was it good strategy attacking the fact that he self-funded it and flipping it, saying that he's just trying to buy the seat? Perfect. That was great rhetoric, great propaganda. But it's kind of disingenuous because it's like the man earned his money, and he's using it to run a race. Like he's not, he didn't take any PAC money, and that's true. But you got to give it to also Brooks strategists, man. They flipped him. They flipped every one of his strong points became the gun in his back. Became the gun in his back by the end of the election.
Trone had, you could even say, maybe an ideal first 10 months. Your opponent's not spending money. People don't know who they are. You're known to almost all the state. And then for the last maybe about 3 weeks, he might have thought, I don't want to go serve in the Senate. I don't want it. I don't know if I need this. And he decided to make about 5 or 6 incredibly stupid and more important, completely unnecessary gaffes. Completely and totally unnecessary. He got a pass for saying jigaboo. He had to apologize, and I think it made him look stupid. But the incident that really broke the dam open, in my opinion, was Prince George's County Councilmember Edward Burrows saying that there was a need for training wheels in the Senate. Now, I'm not going to say even necessarily that he was wrong or that he was being particularly harsh, but by that comment, it opened the floodgates to about 650 women signed on to a letter saying that this is indicative of racist and misogynistic campaigning. This is arguing against a candidate that is more than credentialed. And then from there, Trone was arguing with a reporter about an issue I support. Trone was talking about how important criminal justice reform is. I love somebody that will swing on that issue, but you swing in a debate. You don't swing at a journalist that's kind of in your face asking a little question. And with the number comebacks last night, it's clear basically from the time that early vote started, he was done. He was leading until early vote started being counted. But the gaffes from the start of early vote, the lack of a cohesive message by the time of early vote, and really him refusing to capitalize on, we are the candidate to beat Hogan. If Alsobrooks is the nominee, there is a risk of a 51 Republican Senate. And I don't think they emphasized that near the end as much as they could have through surrogates.
You think he was afraid to attack Hogan, another white male?
No, I don't think that he was afraid to attack Hogan. I think that he was unfortunately too happy to attack Alsobrooks. Like I predicted maybe about 2 weeks before it happened. If they go negative on Alsobrooks and Prince George's, they're going to lose. If they go negative on Also Brooks in my county, they're going to lose. It will be indicative that they think they're down and that they don't think there's any way of increasing their numbers. And for what it's worth, in the Emerson polls, which is the last polls of the race, Trone was at 41. Trone ended up at 42. So Also Brooks essentially... Go ahead.
Was anybody surprised to see Tisha Edwards' name on as a delegate to the convention?
No, and she was the number one vote getter to the convention from that district, if I remember correctly. She got more votes than Brandon Scott, even as a DNC delegate.
I saw Sean Stinnett's wife's name on there, Tammy Stinnett. It's always interesting to me to see those names that pop up as delegates to the convention. Was anybody surprised to see Sheila Dixon lose by 10 points?
10 points, yes, I'm definitely surprised by 10 points.
I was surprised.
I didn't know who was going to win between the two.
Yeah,
I know Brandon never sweat. I never saw Brandon Scott sweat at all.
Yeah. I was surprised by the margin.
What did he know that the rest of us did not know, Andy?
I mean, he had a pretty good team.
He didn't even have signs up. I mean, you just started seeing signs a week before the election. I think they're purple.
I will say this,
No,
they're
blue. They're blue. That's right. My bad.
One thing I did notice about Brandon, and within the last, say, 6 weeks, that one of the big issues that folks have had with Brandon historically is that they were trying to relate to him and connect with him just as a human. In the past 6 weeks to 8 weeks, he's become a family man. You see the pictures of him and his baby, and they, it's just out with the family, and that's something that he didn't have before. And people were able to see that and say, okay, wow, we see where his commitment will be over the next 10, 20 years. He's going to focus on making a better city for his kids, but before that, you couldn't make that same reference for him. It was like, what is his deal? Like, what does he do? Like, what does he care about? You couldn't put that together, but now you see it.
Well, this is as an old head, I thought marriage was going to come into the situation.
I honestly, last night I was thinking to myself, Theroux dropping out the race and throwing his weight behind Sheila Dixon hurt Sheila more than it helped her. That was my thought last night. I was like,
He's no kingmaker, I can tell you that.
And he still pulled like 5% of the vote, so he still was hurting Sheila, even as he was helping Sheila. I was on the phone with Baltimore legislator yesterday talking on the results. At the time, I was talking to them. At that point, Sheila was up. But now, whenever people have these discussions regarding the poll numbers, it needs to be known to the public. The order stuff comes in is vote by mail, early vote, election day, provisionals, the last of the vote by mail ballots. The early vote results, the mail-in ballot results generally favored the candidates supported by older individuals. Vote by mail has increased the access to the ballot for younger people, but it makes it so much easier for grandma and especially great-grandma to vote. It is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
So,
any thoughts on Fox Television? They have tried to be kingmakers, Andy. Fox Television is longing for a candidate. They tried Theroux Vignarajah for 2 election cycles. Now they've tried Sheila Dixon. You think maybe, and they, let's not forget that they bought the Baltimore Sun. So what does that say about Fox 45? What does that say about the black employees, the black reporters at Fox 45? I mean, how in the hell do they look themselves in the mirror?
I mean, they're making 6 figures, right? They don't care.
it's in a pretty mirror, Donnie.
Yeah, they don't even live in the city.
But I think you raise one of the most important points I have not heard anybody really bring up yet. Fox 45 not only has possibly cost the city the most conservative mayor possible, Fox 45 has not only helped to run, I'll say probably the most black outreach candidate of Nick Mosby out of town. And I'm not going to say anything particularly negative towards Nick. I really wish Nick well, and I hope that Nick is able to come out of this and able to become a lobbyist or something, because while I have issues with some of his issues, his advocacy on the BGE issue is as important as anything else. Now also Baltimore City Council is about to have the most progressive majority ever. Maybe even more than 2016? Question mark. Like Eric Costello damn near lost. People talk about Costello as the greatest campaigner of white people of all time, and he almost lost.
I wouldn't say that. Nick D'Adamo did a hell of a job as a city council person, knocked on every door in the district at least 3 times. Costello has a long way to go before he pulls in that type of recognition. Well, we have a comment from a Morehouse man. We cannot allow Hogan to become a U.S. senator. So let me just pose this question. Are we hurting ourselves when we just dismiss the Republicans? What happens when the Republicans do fall in power and we don't have any representation over there?
I think that ironically, that's the situation where
he says Hogan was terrible for Baltimore City. One thing I disagree on, he did help get rid of at least 3,000 vacant houses, and we're very glad for anybody that will address the vacants, because that's just been a source of rhetoric other than the program that got rid of vacants.
Mm-hmm. Well, Donnie, I agree with you on this. When there's a Democratic governor, the only black folks that generally matter to them are either black electeds, black financiers, or black folks who run political organizations. Those are the 3 individuals that get the largest menu from the governor, Speaker of the House, blah, 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 because in a representative democracy, you only got to appeal to a few people. I hate that fact, but it's a fact. Now, when there are Republican governors, that kind of flips the situation on its head. In many cases, black legislators actually can't go and argue for things. We could look at Trump, for example, where I'm not going to say I'm a fan of it, but the black HBCU presidents became one of the primary argumentative forces. And hey, I love HBCUs. The HBCUs are specifically for us. And under democratic organizations, under blue state regimes, HBCUs frequently get messed over under the guise of they harm the public education system. I'll say that again. Under blue state systems, blue state presidency, or excuse me, even under the Obama presidencies, HBCUs are castigated as harming race relations and harming public education by siphoning money from other things. Under Hogan, the private black individual, you could take the Squeaky Kirks of the world, for example, are able to argue for programs directly from the state. In many cases are able to effectively run them or administer them, or at least advertise them, not just as a constituent service outreach effort. So regardless of who is in power, there is still black outreach. I think that just how powerful the outreach person needs to be is substantially lower when there's a Republican leader. That's my opinion, even as an ardent Democrat who frequently asks for things from Democrats.
Hey, Donnie, I got to jump off, but I want to hit this point around Hogan and why this is not a good look, especially right now. Hogan, so at the end of the day, we want an effective senator in Congress, right? If Hogan wins, he may be a champion for, you know, the Lincoln Party, if you will, you know, the old neocons, the folks who are the anti-Trumper wing of the GOP, but he's going to be fighting. That would be his main objective, to be if Trump were to win the presidency, or at the same time, all the Trump wing of the Republican Party. That will be his goal, to make sure that to try to rebuild the Reagan Republican, if you will.
That's so important. That is so important. If Hogan goes to Senate, he will be arguing for his national identity rather than fighting for us.
That's exactly it. He's not fighting. He's not fighting for us. He's fighting for that wing of the to rebuild that wing of the Republican Party.
So let me ask you: is the Democratic Party in Maryland fighting for Black people?
Well, at least we want to get somebody who is at least saying that. At least because we know what Hogan's objective will be. We know it.
Is the Maryland Democratic Party fighting for Black people? For instance, is anybody talking about reparations?
Nope, not
federally.
Well, damn. Now the Japanese get reparations. People from other countries get reparations. Ukraine gets billions of dollars. What about
Hogan? Definitely not going to talk about reparations. I can tell you that right now.
Are you
he's
sure?
Not going to be. I'm positive.
Well, he's going to come on this show, and I will be calling you gentlemen so that we can pose these and other important questions to you. But right now, we have a Black governor. We don't need a Hogan or the Republican Party. We have a Black governor, a Black attorney general, a Black treasurer, a Black speaker of the House. Andy, is there any reason that we can't push forth on reparations if you agree with reparations?
There's really no reason why it can't be on the table, because there's enough power, Black power in there. But will it pass? Probably not. Now,
well, let me tell you, you miss 100% of the shots you never take. That is certain.
True.
I'm just asking: is anybody going to shoot the ball?
Donnie, for what it's worth, when Wes Moore was running for governor, I was just saying when he was running for governor, he might have changed his mind 10 minutes after or 10 minutes before, whatever. He said that he was pro-reparations. He said adamantly that we cannot solve the racial wealth gap problems. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're discussing the racial wealth gap in a serious capacity,
that was his line, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Work, wealth,
wages, wealth. Work, wages,
wealth. There you have it.
Now, to give some credit, because I think that Wes Moore so far has actually been a fantastic governor. And I'm not even trying to blow his head up. I think that he has been.
Well, this is mind blowing, Richard, considering that you were not a supporter. I mean, damn. I mean, Peter Franchot. I wondered if that guy even knew any Black people. He told Black people at that rally he had down at the airport to go to his website and look at his program on MBE that Joe Gaskins wrote just before Joe Gaskins quit the team.
Well, with the Franchot administration, my goal would have been using my leverage as an independent Black agent, like I just said, to move resources and power away from just elected officials, but also to the private individuals who need to know what's going on.
Was there a real difference between Franchot and Hogan?
Between Franchot and Hogan? Absolutely. Absolutely.
There was?
I think that you could say that for their political style of being kind of poll-driven and not necessarily having ideals on the day-by-day, you could easily argue that. But for actual goals and achievements, I think that Franchot's primary reputation going down in the history books will be as an individual that sponsored reforms, an individual that looked at every reform effort in the state and at the very least said, here's what I've been doing, here's what we've been doing to try and further reform on this front, and here's what you could do. That's what I looked at him as doing.
So look, Dale makes a great point. So we can't talk about our issues. Israel can talk about their issues. Ukraine can talk about their issues. Everybody else can talk about their issues. But when it comes to me and my Black ass, I just better vote Democrat. Remember when Anthony Brown was first running? He said they had signs up Liberty Heights. I don't know if you remember him.
Vote for the Democrats.
Vote for the Democrats. I was like, huh? That's what you tell me.
I understand it.
Yeah. Was not a fan of those.
We'll probably see him again. We might see them again.
You gotta deliver. Look at Baltimore City Public Schools. Aaron Maven showed us a picture of icicles on the classroom windows. Poly, City, these schools, top-notch citywide institutions, they don't even have air and heat on certain days. We got new renovations for the football and baseball stadiums, but some of these schools just need their filters changed.
Mm-hmm.
I do not understand the lack of commitment to our children, whether it's the lottery's fault or not their fault. Why isn't anyone talking about Baltimore City, Prince George's County Public Schools at the bottom? The bottom. I mean, damn.
Well,
Baltimore City has the third highest funded school jurisdiction in the nation. These kids can't even spell. They can't count.
Well, for the dichotomy between the two candidates that'll now be facing in the general, also Brooks's main sticking point on education has been the construction of new schools. I raise issue with how they are being funded, but also Brooks is one of her, I'd say maybe three main.
I ask where they are being put because they're not in my neighborhood.
No. I'm talking about in Prince George's. These are Prince George's County executive specific ones. They are building 10 new schools and they used public-private financing. I don't believe that's how you should pay for them because that's going to make them about twice or three times more expensive in the long term. But to help address our overcrowding issues, also Brooks has gone to the mat to try and build new schools, and they are going to be high-quality schools when they're done. And they were built pretty fast, I must add, as well. Now, that's just one angle of the education bit. But that said, the Education Association supported David Trone in the primary.
Who will be the next county executive in Prince George's?
Juiciest question for all listening viewers. You might want to perk your ears up for this. In Prince George's County, there are two scenarios of note. Number one, the county executive resigns prior to a predetermined date, leading to a special election wherein any candidate may file. In such a special election, I think some of the strongest candidates are Aisha Braveboy, Calvin Hawkins, Jolene Ivey, possibly Rashawn Baker, at least those four as incredibly strong candidates in a special election.
You said also Brooks' name first, but Calvin Hawkins was actually a also Brooks supporter. Doesn't that matter?
Yes, I Brave Boy supported Trone, which I would assume would mean that also Brooks would not support her for county executive.
Oh, I'm sure she would punish her at this point. I mean,
I'm not going to speak too sure, but the future may tell. Calvin Hawkins was an adamant supporter of. Good morning to you, Mr. Crawley. Calvin Hawkins was an adamant supporter of Angela Also Brooks in this race.
Was he threatening people that if you don't support Also Brooks, there will be a price to pay?
Until somebody says that's happened for certain, I think that the situation is more, there's so many people supporting that if you don't support, you can't eat from the trough, not necessarily say, I'm going to hit you. And they were taking away the carrot. They weren't necessarily offering the stick. I think there's not enough political power to spread to literally every elected in the state. There just isn't, unfortunately. And then final person is Jolene Ivey. Jolene also was a adamant Also Brooks supporter. Now let's get to the juicier possible scenario, and that is a appointment. If Also Brooks resigns after, it would be something like December 12th, something like that. If she resigns after December 12th, meaning basically she stays as long as she can to help maintain continuity and maintain the health insurance, blah, blah, blah.
Will Westmore take that hit for her?
Well, Westmore, what do you mean take the hit?
Well, so you're saying he's going to push Calvin?
I don't know. I actually don't. I think that Wes is relatively hands off for endorsements. Relatively,
was he late coming to Also Brooks's assistant? Initially it seemed like he was a little tepid, but somewhere along the line she grabbed him by the collar and said, "Look here, boy."
Nah, I don't think that was the situation.
Oh,
I think
come on, Richard.
No,
he was tepid at first.
Trone started to go more negative, and Jawando was still in the race at the time. They were trying to
I forgot about that name.
Yeah, So there was also the factor of trying to get Jawando to bow out of the race. There's a very plausible scenario that if Jawando was in last night, David Trone is the nominee. There is a very plausible scenario there. I'm not going to say it's the fact, but it's plausible. Getting Jawando out of the race was as important as Trone's gaffes, was as important as the overwhelming Thanos-like support for Angela.
Congratulations, Angela Alsabrook. She kicked butt last night.
Congratulations.
She kicked butt. Andy, any final thoughts? I don't want to get anyone in any hot water. Kim Klacik, what do we expect to hear in that Ocheski Klacik fight? What's next?
I mean, it's gonna be it's Johnny O's race to lose at this point. Just speaking frankly, Kim's strategist, Kim GC is gonna really have to show and prove that he can beat a Maryland or a true blue Baltimore Countyite in his backyard, and this is what elections are made of.
Good stuff.
But I like Kim. I like Kim as a person. I think she's a wonderful individual, and so I want to see her do well. But I also have to be realistic about the numbers.
Hey,
okay. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I got a whole bunch of final thoughts. I'll try and make them quick. Kim Klacik does pay people to cover the polls. And for anybody who's listening, let me do a quick unsponsored, unpaid ad. This guy, Andy Pierre, he'll get you 100 people to cover the polls. He'll find you people. He'll help you cover the polls. It is the most important thing in an election. If you're in an election and you don't cover the polls, you might as well have a car with no engine because it looks pretty, but it damn sure ain't going to move anything. Other notes. Also, Brooks is going to, I think, run the kind of Westmore in the general election. I'll discuss my grander campaign strategy. There has already been concerted effort to brand Hogan as anti-abortion, and this election,
is he anti-abortion? I never heard that until this election.
I'm not going to say. Well, right now, there's been 3 points of in his life. When he was a young boy, he was very anti-abortion, as was his dad. I don't know if it's fair to call a candidate who he was when he was 19. Whatever. When he ran for governor, he was not anti-abortion. And he said, why are y'all calling me anti-abortion? I'm a governor. I don't really do anything on this. Helped him to win. Now, different scenario. Not only is he now, I'm not anti-abortion, but I damn sure ain't pro-abortion. But he is also running for Senate to be the tie-breaking vote when Roe v. Wade is the most important issue in the nation. It is not going to be a Marylander question. It is going to be New York Times. Larry Hogan, how you feeling today? Is abortion important to you today? Or are we saying there aren't issues when you're a senator? And let me give Mr. Deese a final note of extreme applause for something he said I ain't think of. If Angela Alsobrooks goes to the Senate, she is receiving mentorship from some of the most esteemed and long-serving Democrats in American history. If Larry Hogan goes to the Senate, he's fighting against Democrats, he's fighting against Republicans, he's fighting against Donald Trump. He's Liz Cheney without the name recognition on the national scale.
Oh, you're saying Trump's going to beat Biden?
No. But I think that even if Trump does not beat Biden, Hogan is going to throw barbs at Trump, and Trump is going to go throw barbs at Hogan regardless. Hogan will be up there as a man with very little of a country and even less of stuff that he truly needs to stand on. You could say the thinking man's Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Okay. Have you ever interviewed Hogan one-on-one?
If you give me the opportunity, I'm going to make that shit shine.
You're going to need a referee at that interview.
I'll be the referee. Protect yourself at all times.
No, I would be thrilled to do so because there are parts of his record that I would like for him to talk about because they're positives on when you made your appointments, what were you considering? Because I think he could very easily say, I wanted the most representative leaders in the Black community when I made my appointments. I don't think that he'd be lying to say that. I think that he could talk about what his goals were for being the governor and how he was able to accomplish them. If I interview him, I'm not going to try and just say you're the worst candidate for the Senate and I hate you, but you were a very successful governor. What could Marylanders learn from your tenure as governor for how they should look at this governor?
Would you say that Wes Moore's reelection is a cinch?
Right now, hell yeah. Right now, I think Angela Alsobrooks is the most powerful Democrat in Maryland. She just received more than half of the vote against a very powerful individual who had oodles and oodles of money. She had roughly as much money as Wes Moore, but got like twice as many votes as he did when he ran for governor. But I think that Wes Moore is going to have the machinery, the money, and the national appeal. Hold this, Doni. We have not one but two black individuals in this state that are at least VP candidates. At least. Two in one state that are at least VP candidates. That's
least VP, so possibly even presidential. Clearly, Wes Moore doesn't want to be anybody's VP.
Wes, if you run for president on universal health care, I'm going to move the world to try and get votes for you for president.
We have to make sure it's still a fact. It's still a reality here in the state of Maryland, correct?
I think that the presidential cycle after this is going to have maybe 30 candidates on the Democratic side, and the possibility of having not only a black candidate, not only a young black candidate, not only a young, relatively progressive black candidate, but a young, progressive black candidate who will fight for Maryland first.
All right. Well, I got to put you young bucks on point. There's a senior statesman whose name has not been mentioned once during this show, who was a part of this victory for the Democrats as well. As a matter of fact, back in 18 years ago in 2006, Martin O'Malley and Mike Miller were very disrespectful to him. But I will tell you, he is the unsung hero in an Angela Alsobrooks victory. His name is formerly Fussell Gray Kwesi Mfume.
We only build on the shoulders of giants. If it was not for the 2006 Kwesi Mfume campaign, if it was not for the 2016 Donna Edwards campaign, Alsobrooks does not have the same pathway and viability that she does.
Well, she didn't make the mistakes that Donna Edwards made. Donna Edwards made some serious gaffes. Her public relations were horrible.
As a proud Donna Edwards voter, they are distinctly different candidates. I think that it is fair to say that Alsobrooks is a very clean and a mistake avoidant candidate. Let me say that. More so than trying to find points of pressure to make you want to support her, she makes it very hard not to support her.
And she looks pretty darn good in a gala gown. I saw her in a gold dress. It was like, wow.
The county executive is a immaculate woman. I cannot say anything but that.
Congratulations to her and her family. Andy, we're going to get out of here. You good?
Yeah.
We kept the brand intact. Richard Deshae Elliott, we thank you for your top-notch analysis, sir.
It's okay. You'll get more soon. I don't know if I'll be back Friday now because I thought the results wouldn't be until Friday, but I will be back soon, and we will continue to litigate the Senate election to make sure that people are aware of the distinctions between the candidates. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I don't have a jingle this week. Thank you for tuning in. You will hear from us all again.
Up to date, down tomorrow, do your day, and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it, regardless of how I feel. I am
higher
somebody.
Andy. Higher Andy. Higher Andy.
I am my brother's keeper. Good morning, world.